Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In an incident that shocked the international community, a Jewish rabbi in Israel recently sparked a major controversy by burning hundreds of copies of the Quran in a public ceremony. The act has drawn protests and condemnation from various religious groups and the international community. But even more shockingly, some Jews who witnessed the incident have reportedly converted to Islam in response to the incident. Rabbi burns Quran. The rabbi involved in the incident, known as Rabbi Shlomo Avidan, carried out his act in front of a group of his supporters at an event held over the weekend. During the act, Avidan was seen burning hundreds of copies of the Quran as hundreds of other people watched. During the burning, Avidan stated that his act was part of a protest against what he considered to be threats to Jewish identity. The act has drawn strong reactions from various groups, especially the Muslim community, who consider the burning of their holy book an unacceptable insult. International reaction. The incident quickly drew international attention, with many countries and international organizations condemning the act. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, issued an official statement strongly condemning the burning of the Quran and calling for Rabbi Avidan to be held accountable for his actions. Not only that, many Muslim religious figures, including clerics and leaders of Muslim communities around the world, also called for respect for the holy book to be respected, regardless of one's religious background. Jewish conversions to Islam. While the incident drew outrage, there was another unexpected development. Several Jews who were originally present at the event were moved by the insult to the Quran and decided to convert to Islam. One of them was David Ben Ami, a Tel Aviv resident who attended the event with several of his friends. David explained that when he saw the Muslim holy book being burned, he felt that the act did not reflect the teachings of compassion that he believed should be at the heart of all religions. I was very shocked. We are taught to respect all religions and holy books, but what I witnessed was very different. After reflection, I felt that Islam is a religion of peace and wisdom, and I decided to embrace it, David said with conviction. Further investigation and controversy. Following the incident, Israeli authorities announced that they would conduct a further investigation into Rabbi Avidan's actions. However, many criticized the government's slow response, which they considered to be too dismissive of the social and religious implications of the incident. Meanwhile, moderate Jewish groups in Israel have also begun to express concern about the growing radicalization of some elements of their society. Conclusion. This incident reflects the growing tensions between different religions and the challenges facing an increasingly polarized world. Despite the strong reaction to the burning of the Quran, the conversion of some Jews to Islam also shows that some people are seeking understanding and tolerance among fellow human beings, even those of different religious traditions. In the future, how the world responds to this act may determine the direction of interfaith relations. In this video, in a small village near the border, lived a Jewish rabbi who was known for his wisdom and piety. The rabbi, named Yak, was a respected community leader, always a point of reference for those seeking wise advice. He lived in a simple house with his young son, Benjamin. Benjamin was an intelligent and curious child. From an early age, he loved to read anything he could find: sacred scriptures, poetry, folk tales, and even books brought by traders from distant lands. His father, Rabbi Yak, fully supported Benjamin's love for knowledge. For the rabbi, understanding the world and learning from various sources was a way to appreciate God's creation. One day, a trader from a Muslim land passed through their village. The trader carried various goods, including a Quran in Hebrew. Benjamin, his only son, whom he was so proud of, was known as an intelligent and curious child. Benjamin loved to read, not only Jewish scriptures, but also other books brought by traders from outside the city. One day, without his father's knowledge, Benjamin bought a copy of the Quran from a Muslim trader who had stopped in their town. When Rabbi Yak entered Benjamin's study one evening, he was shocked to find his son sitting attentively, reading the Quran open before him. "Benjamin, what are you reading?" the rabbi asked firmly, his eyes wide with surprise. Benjamin lowered his head, but honestly answered, "Father, this is the Quran. I found many things in it that are similar to the teachings of the Torah." I just want to learn more about the world and other teachings. Rabbi Yaak's face turned red. He felt worried and afraid. What if his son, his only heir, was influenced by the teachings of Islam? This concern turned into deep fear in his mind. He imagined not only his son but also his congregation being swayed by the influence of another religion that was starting to enter their small town. The next day, in his anger and despair, Rabbi Yaak gathered the congregation at the synagogue. He stood before them and spoke in a loud voice. "My brothers and sisters, I have seen the danger of allowing foreign teachings into our midst. The Quran, a book from another religion, is now being read by our children. I fear it will shake our faith. Therefore, I have decided that we must gather every Quran in this town and burn it, so we are protected from its harmful influence." The room was silent. The congregation exchanged looks, shocked by the rabbi's statement. Some nodded in agreement, but others seemed hesitant. Then a man named Ezra, one of Rabbi Yaak's devoted disciples, known for his wisdom, stepped forward and spoke calmly, but with conviction. "Rabbi Yaak, forgive me if I speak out of turn, but this decision goes against our teachings. The Torah teaches us not to destroy anything without just cause. Even regarding books from other religions, we are taught to show respect because God's wisdom can be found anywhere. Isn't burning the book a way of closing the door to understanding those who are different from us? Aren't we taught to engage in dialogue, not destruction?" Ezra's words struck Rabbi Yaak like a thunderbolt. He paused for a moment, then lowered his head. One night, Benjamin gathered the courage to speak to his father. His voice trembled as he said, "Father, I love the teachings you have instilled in me since I was a child, but there is something in my heart that urges me to seek further. I feel I must understand the Quran more deeply from those who live by it. I want to go and find the answers." Rabbi Yaak looked at his son with eyes full of concern and sorrow. He knew that Benjamin had grown into a young man who was independent and steadfast, yet his son's desire made his heart tremble. "Benjamin, you know how much I want you to stay on the path our ancestors have taught us, but if this is your choice, I can only pray that God will always guide you," he said, with tears held back. Rabbi Yaak gave his blessing for his son to leave, though his heart was broken. "Go, my son, but remember to always seek the truth with an honest heart." Benjamin left his home and walked far until he reached a large city populated by many Muslims. There he met an old merchant named Umar, who was known for his kindness and knowledge. Umar saw the enthusiasm in Benjamin and decided to teach him about Islam. Day by day, Benjamin learned about the Quran, the Hadith, and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. He not only studied the texts, but also saw how the Muslims lived their lives with sincerity and submission to God. Benjamin was fascinated by the simplicity and depth of Islam's teachings. After months of study, Benjamin felt something unstoppable stirring in his heart. He felt that the Quran had provided answers to the questions that had long confused him. One peaceful night, under a starry sky, he said to Umar, "I am certain that this is the truth I have been searching for. I wish to declare my faith in a small mosque." Umar guided Benjamin to recite the Shahada with a voice full of conviction. Benjamin said, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah." Tears streamed down his face, not because of sadness, but because of a peace he had never felt before. At that moment, Benjamin chose a new name for himself, Bilal. Although he had found his path, Bilal did not forget his father. He knew that this decision would be very painful for Rabbi Yaak, but he felt he had to be honest. One day, unexpectedly, Benjamin, now known as Bilal, returned to the small town where he had grown up. He came with a heart full of longing, but also with unwavering faith. With great humility, he knocked on his father's door. When the door opened, Rabbi Yaak stood there, his eyes widening as he saw his son, who had grown into an adult man. "Benjamin," he whispered in a hoarse voice, his eyes filled with tears. "Father," Bilal replied, hugging his father tightly, "I'm home." That night, they sat together in the family room that had once been their place to study the Torah, but now the atmosphere was different. There was a distance created by time and differing beliefs. Still, the love between father and son warmed the room. After a light conversation about their respective lives, Bilal finally spoke. "Father, I want to talk about something important. I want to share what I have learned over the years. I want you to understand why I chose this path." Rabbi Yaak nodded, though his heart trembled slightly. "Speak, my son. I will listen." Bilal began to explain gently what he had learned about Islam. He spoke of the oneness of God, how the Quran teaches people to worship God without intermediaries, and about the prophets who were sent to deliver the same message, including Prophet Moses and Prophet Muhammad. "Father, Islam does not annul the teachings of the Torah. Islam actually perfects them. The Quran teaches respect for the prophets who came before, including Prophet Moses, whom we deeply love. All these teachings come from the same God, the one God," Bilal said with a voice full of conviction. Rabbi Yaak listened intently but did not speak. He felt that his son's words touched something deep within him, something he had long tried to ignore, the feeling that there was more to understand. After a long night, Rabbi Yaak said to his son, "Benjamin, I love you, and I see the strength of your faith. I want to know more about what you said, but give me time." Bilal smiled hopefully. "Of course, Father. I don't want to force you. I just want you to search with an honest heart, as I once did." In the following days, Rabbi Yaak began to read the Quran, a book he had once viewed with suspicion. He read it with an open heart, trying to understand the message it contained. Each time he came across verses about Prophet Moses, the oneness of God, or justice, he felt his heart softening. Bilal also patiently guided his father, explaining difficult verses and showing how Islam respects the teachings brought by previous prophets. After weeks of reflection, one night, Rabbi Yaak called his son with tear-filled eyes. He said, "Benjamin, I have read, reflected, and prayed. I have found that the Quran does not contradict the Torah. On the contrary, it complements the teachings I have received all this time. I feel that this is the truth I have been searching for." Bilal took his father's hand with deep emotion. "Father, are you sure?" With a firm yet gentle voice, Rabbi Yaak replied, "I am sure. Show me the way to declare my faith." That night, in their humble home, Bilal guided his father to recite the Shahada with a steady voice. Rabbi Yaak said, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah." Tears flowed down their faces, not from sadness, but from a deep sense of gratitude. After embracing Islam, Rabbi Yaak changed his name to Ibrahim, in honor of Prophet Abraham, the father of the prophets. He lived in peace, studying Islam more deeply with his son. Ibrahim became a respected figure among both the Muslim and Jewish communities in the town, admired for his wisdom, even though he had converted. Their story became an inspiration for many, teaching that the search for truth requires a sincere heart, the courage to accept change, and love that transcends differences. Rabbi Ibrahim and Bilal proved that God always guides those who seek him with an honest heart.